So just putting the stencil against the cake, and always stencil on a cold cake. I love the final look of the cake. My best tier is going to have to be the top tier, you know, just the whole palette knife texture that's on it gives this really classy look. Secondly, I think I'm also in love with the subtle stenciling on the third tier. It's really beautiful. Welcome to 2026 wedding season. I'm so excited. Yes! This is going to be white wedding cake, and it's a 3-tier cake. Let's talk about the cake itself. I have a 9-inch, 7-inch, and 5-inch. And so that constitutes my 3 tiers, alternating chocolate and vanilla cake layers. And I'm going to have vanilla and chocolate ganache as the filling. So that's a start about the cake. We want to talk about the cake support. Now, this is a big cake as well as a very heavy cake. And so we will need to support the cake such that there is no bulging or there is no break or crack in the buttercream at the end of the day. And how do we support that? By using cake boards. Not every tier, but the 5-inch and the 7-inch tiers are going to have cake cards beneath them. That's the trick to supporting the weight of the cake, and it's also going to help me transfer the cake from the board where I decorated them to cake itself, like to the 9-inch cake. So the cake board, very important when stacking cakes. And another important tool when stacking cakes is the cake dowel. The cake dowel will be inserted in the bottom and the middle tier to support the weight of the middle tier and the top tier. Now I'm going to have this PVC dowels around the cake. So this is a 7-inch cake sitting on a 9-inch cake. And so I would have about, give or take, 5 cake dowels in the 9-inch to support the weight of the 7-inch cake. And also in the 7-inch, I will have about 4 PVC dowels to support the weight of the 5-inch cake. Yes, there is a lot of calculation and I would say requirements when it comes to stacking cakes, just because of the weight and because you're going to be transporting the cake to the venue. You want to make sure that you have your cakes not sliding, and that's where we have the center cake dowel. So I'm going to use a center cake dowel through the topmost tier all the way to the bottom so that it holds all cake layers together. Peradventure, there is a bump on the road, I wouldn't have cake layer sliding from left to right, but the cake dowel would support it. The cake dowel will actually be placed in at the venue. However, I have a cake sieve, which I will do a video when getting the cake ready to go to the venue. And so I'm going to be using my cake sieve, which has its own center dowel. It would go in from the very top to the bottom to support the tiers, and at the venue I will be putting in the wooden tier. Yes, so that is that about the cake support and the cake layers. The cake is going to be white. The final buttercream is going to be white with a bit of texture on some of the layers. So stenciling on the 9-inch and kind of texturized pattern on the 3rd inch. On the 3rd tier. The middle tier is going to be plain white because that's where we're going to have couple's initials just right in front of the cake. The cake will also have floral, pink, purple, and white roses. And so I'm going to have flowers on the side of the cake. It promises to be a very interesting and engaging video, so please like, comment, share, turn on the notification bell so you get aware of when I have new videos coming up. starting with the 9-inch tier. The cake has been chilled and it's time to insert the cake dowels so that it can support the top tiers. So this is the 9-inch cake, and I'm going to be inserting cake dowels inside the cake to support the 7-inch tier. So this is a 7-inch cake pan. I will just be putting it, centering it on the 9 inches, so I kind of get an idea of where the cake is going to sit. It's time to apply the final buttercream coating to the base tier, and I have filled my piping bag with my buttercream. So just putting the buttercream around the cake. I like using a bag because of the ease it gives me, especially when working with large cakes. Just gently scrape the buttercream. I'm holding the cake scraper at an angle and just turning or using my left hand to rotate the turntable. this is good. I'll put this in the fridge to firm up while I work on the other tiers. So decorating the middle tier. Just going to change the turntable. The cake isn't heavy enough for this table. Back to this. This is the second tier and we're done with decorating. There's actually minimal decoration here. I'm just going to have the couple's initials on the cake, and this is how the final look of this middle tier or the second tier is going to be. So at the beginning of this video, I talked about the internal cake structure and supporting the cake using a center dowel. I'm going to be using PVC pipes to create that center dowel, such that when I put in the cake safe long dowel or the wooden dowel at the venue, it would have a passageway. So I'm using the PVC to create that path in the cake. I have parchment paper around the cake. That is what helps me when transporting cakes. And remember, we have used cake cards, fabricated cake card, pre-cut fib cards, cake cards that have the hole. And so I'm just going to be making sure that it aligns just like that. I'll repeat the same thing and send the dowel all the way down. And we'll be adding the third tier, the topmost tier. So same thing, it has the hole in already. Just try to center this and take a look at it to see if it's as centered as you want it to be. So again, just trimming off the excess. Scrape around the cake because I need a neat seal. So I'll be adding more buttercream just to the bottom to seal the joint between the tiers. And just running the cake scraper around that seal. So that locks in the buttercream and it looks like. So that's the seal on the bottom tier. Repeat the same for the top tier. And we have our stacked cake ready for the design. So the design on the bottom tier is going to be some stenciling. Just move this to the side. And I have my stencil with me. Just put the stencil and apply a bit of buttercream. The buttercream has to be at a particular consistency to achieve great stenciling, and so I'm going to microwave the buttercream for about 10 seconds. So it's not runny and it's not too thick. This is the consistency I use for stenciling. So just putting the stencil against the cake, and always stencil on a cold cake. So the cake has to be cold for you to achieve that really quick, setting. And then you scrape off the excess. Peel to reveal. I'm not sure you can really see it, but I'll try to zoom in so you can see the stencil work. And it's a wrap. I love the final look of the cake. My best tier is going to have to be the top tier, you know, just the whole palette knife texture that's on it gives this really classy look. Secondly, I think I'm also in love with the subtle stenciling on the third tier. It's really beautiful. I think what brings it together is just the combination of the topper with the couple's initials and and the blend of the colors, the roses, and it's just so beautiful. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for staying this long. I hope you have indeed found this very interesting. Please leave comments if you have any questions. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe, and see you next time on another video from the Cake Trail. Thank you.